we've created to keep it very succinct. And I'll roll through this. We've got a supportive, much larger PDF presentation that we will share that goes into much more depth on this side and kind of the real-time things we're seeing in the industry when it comes to shore power, electrification, smartification, adoption of electric vehicles, electric vessels, challenges, code related to all these good guys. Oh, you probably can't see my face here, but in the US, the NFPA, we've got ABYC, the NEC, the CEC, and a lot of other authorities having jurisdiction when it comes to the intersection of delivering products at marinas and beyond and boats that will ultimately drive, adoption of technologies that are really going to decarbonize. So really, when we look at where VoltSafe lands in all of this, VoltSafe had thought many years ago to go, wow, this is really cool, this magnetic MagSafe connector on my computer that I have. And it retains that unique value that prong plugs have had for us, which is, anything above 60 volts, higher power that we connect. With conduction, metal to metal, you get fast and efficient power transfer, whereas things like wireless power transfer and various others result in a lot more in the losses. So right now we're trying to do more with less when it comes to electrification. That's part of the overall strategy to decarbonize. However, it's not a one size fits all. There are so many things that we need to do right now, the world needs to do right now to truly decarbonize and do our part in the marina space. That includes, number one, alternative fuels, optimization, energy storage, electrical generation. So we've got many things going on here, and the marina industry and marine industry as a whole, come at the intersection of all that, along with scaling and timing and cost. So right now, what VoltSafe, for those of you that don't know, VoltSafe created a prongless connector that also retains that advantage that we've had with prong plugs and receptacles for any voltage or amperage that can scale, where pronged plugs, we still use them today, not because they're awesome, but because they're fast, they deliver power fast and efficiently, and they don't break the bank when it comes to cost. There are challenges associated with the design. However, it gets the job done. What we developed was a patented technology around authenticating power first. And really what I mean by that is instead of having receptacles or outlets that have to hide the metal inside like we've done around the world for the last 140 years, what we do is say, well, we've got this thing called technology. Smart plugs have approximately the same components as our technology does. And we start by default having outlets that are de-energized. So you can expose the contacts in this prong plug, various voltages. That is typically dangerous to humans. And only when the other side comes together, pulls together magnetically, the two prongless slides connect and check resistance, impedance, the safety of the connection before deciding whether to authenticate and turn on power, all within 5 milliseconds. So this is kind of modern technology that can help with respect to safety, efficiencies, and definitely on the user experience side also. Because our technology is smart, we also land at the intersection of adding software and hardware into our platform for shore power. I have our shore power pedestal behind us, and I'm going to touch into some of the aspects that, essentially are dock to dashboard that we can deliver along with other technologies out there that need to play their part also in decarbonizing overall our marinas and the marine space. So I'm going to see if I can slide down here. Great. Obviously, this is the biggest bucket are the large ships. It's also something that global trade really drives. So alternative fuels here are a key driver, and this is nothing new. However, as things start to scale, like when it comes to larger voltages and amperage, VoltSafe is able to deliver connectors that can deliver substation power for things like ferries and whatnot, and scale up from there. So that is something that is the biggest bucket. Right now, though, VoltSafe is focused ultimately on shore power at the 30 amp level, and we are scaling up to higher powers, two-phase or split phase, and then also three-phase in the coming 1 and 2 years. So now when we talk about really the kind of steps we're taking, ultimately where we are operating, and we have a lot of knowledge. We attend all the trade shows, like various trade shows, whether it's TIBS, whether it's local in British Columbia, whether it is a more recent trade show, which is Pacific Coast Congress with all the harbor masters in San Francisco across the West Coast. These are things where VoltSafe has been able to understand the challenges associated with adoption of technologies that really will drive ultimately the electrification and support of electric vessels in marinas, and be able to reduce the overall GHG effective footprint by doing more with less and utilizing AI within a marina, and also putting the power in the hands of the marina operators so that they have the visibility and control of their entire marina and the shore power receptacles that we have within our smart shore power pedestals. So our technology in the past, we had been developing it, and right now we are just finishing safety certification, and we are starting to fulfill many of the earlier pilots that we had done last year to get feedback from all the marina operators and stakeholders to deliver a platform that is plug and play hardware pedestal that is much safer, much simpler to operate, has a beautiful user interface that easily just twists and disconnects, and always is safe, along with some real key code changes that are happening in Canada on the CEC side, the Canadian Electric Code, and then in the US, even more so, the National Electric Code around leakage and ground fault protective equipment, typically right now being mandated in the form of the breakers within each pedestal for each slip. Now, right now, where we are focused, we recently had done a partnership with the Port of San Diego, where they have invested in VoltSafe's technology to deliver our prongless connectors to their various 36 different marinas in the port. So that is one of the exciting programs we have going on right now. We are just about to announce a commercial trial where there's going to be 6 pedestals while we're in the middle of finishing certification and moving to develop and start fulfillment of production runs at marinas, our early purchase orders. We're going to be extending and allowing 6 different marinas to try out our shore power pedestal in its final form in the coming month or two. Now, there's many challenges with shore power, and there's many opportunities. Right now, you guys have probably heard of various new things kind of coming down, electric vessels, the adoption of such. They're very expensive. Also, for marinas and ports that are willing to, and want to support electric vessels and electrification, this puts strain on their own usable transformers and the power that they have currently for the marinas and their ports. And what needs to really happen to support these electric vessels is very similar to what Elon Musk, love him or hate him, what he had done with electric vehicles. And what I mean by that is simply building the infrastructure that allows for and promotes the adoption of electric vessels. Right now, there's many challenges. Safety is certainly a key around harsh environments. Water and electricity don't typically mix well, especially salt water. That's a harsh environment because what happens right now is because all outlets are electrified and have been for anything above 60 volts around the world, what happens is when you connect, and most people do not turn off their breaker. The customers don't turn off the breaker like they're told before connecting their L530, the prong plug, that's a 30 amp connector, or the 50 amp split phase, and they just put it in. You get a little arc on the tip. That's the problem with prong plugs and live receptacles for the last 100 plus years is once you get a harsh environment exposure and you damage just one little speck of arc, a little weld on the tip of these prongs, ends up opening up the nickel plating down to the brass. And the salt water does the rest and turns a shore power plug into what is the equivalent of a toaster. And this is where you see meltdowns, fire risk. And then, we have other issues such as, and this is a very systemic issue that needs to be corrected and is in the process of being corrected, is current leakage that happens from vessels into the water. And the reason it's systemic is the governing bodies until recently have never required ground fault protection for anything above 20 amps, which is your standard home receptacle, GFCI. And a GFPE is the same thing as a GFCI, except it has a trip sensitivity that is less sensitive than a home version. And it's becoming a requirement at every slip. In Canada, it's not quite a requirement at every slip. However, in the US, it is. And essentially what's happening is many boats are tripping this and unable to get power because on their boat, there are electrical problems with grounding, also old devices, which are also delivering and putting current leakage into the water. And once you get above 30 milliamps, what happens in the code is that it will trip and they will have no power. And that's something that, is very difficult that marine operators have been dealing with. So one of the barriers to entry for electric vessels, number one, is if we're going to adopt electric vessels, and I've traveled to almost every state and also up in Canada, almost every province. And there's a lot of challenging issues associated with it, whereas marinas want to support this and ports want to support electric vessels. However, it has to be a healthy ecosystem for all stakeholders. And what I mean by that is the electric vessels, just like an electric vehicle, can be upcharged on the electricity usage because it is not a human right. It is not shore power or hotel power, just like your home, where you cannot come in between a utility that provides the energy at a certain price. So what happens there is on the electric vessel side, or what electric vehicles did, of course, they created chargers that then could charge 30 cents or 50 cents per kilowatt hour. So they could get the payback on their capital investments and whatnot. So this is one of the areas that needs to happen. And right now at your marina, typically a marina that has electric vessels, their only real solution that they've gone with is getting a single fast charger, DC fast charger, from Tritium or Aqua Superpower, the Tritium unit, which is a great unit. And that is going to support all your electric vessels. Now, there's a big opportunity here for these marinas to be able to promote reduction in use of fossil fuels and whatnot through electrification. And what we are doing on our part is delivering a 2-in-1 solution that will be coming out next year after our first product. And that 2-in-1 solution you can think of as a shore power pedestal that is able to connect and communicate with an electric vessel and determine that, oh, we're charging for propulsion right now. So these kilowatt hours go into a software and CRM, customer relationship management software that we have created and it buckets it as propulsion. And then over here, whoever's using it for turning on the shore power lights in their boat and all that, that is a pass-through price kilowatt hour. So we're able to separate that and also deliver it from the same outlet. So that's a key thing, because otherwise right now for level 2 charging, this will be level 2 charging, it would be accessible for anyone with an electric vessel at any slip in a marina. And the price of the hardware and software, what we've done is bring it in at a cost that is similar to just a standard shore power pedestal with power metering. So these are some of the advantages and some of the things that we're trying to do to unlock these connectors and unlock the smartification, if you will, of shore power to ultimately create a lot more in the overall ecosystem so everyone can benefit. Because to give power to electric vessels, a lot of marinas will end up having too much strain on their own breakers and whatnot, and the power coming in from their main lines. So they will have to upgrade transformers, and that's a cost, and that cost needs to be recovered. So one of the advantages of what VoltSafe technology is, and it sounds crazy at the beginning to expose contacts, and we were on Dragon's Den a bunch of years back, which was certainly a lot of fun. But how do you get safety certification for a connector that exposes contacts when that's never been done before? Well, the answer is it's very difficult. And we have already got safety certification in a beta product. So we have overcome that hurdle, but it was not easy, because when it comes to CSA and UL in the United States, this wasn't in the code. So we had to do a new and innovative approach and challenge the standards that existed, and proving that the technology is so safe, it's impossible to turn on accidentally. And it only turns on when you have its mating connector. And you're also able to use it in a system whereby the boat owners at a marina or at a port do not have to change their own shore power cord that they already have with them on their boat. Because let's be honest, who wants to spend another $500 or $1,000 on another cord set? So our technology adapts to it via the L530 prong set. So you just simply put this in, they take their own, put it in. These come with the product, with our overall shore power pedestal. You just push in, twist, just like you do locking type, and then 3 seconds later, you've got your whole system that can also be taken off in 1 second, and you go over to a different marina. So we do power metering built in. One of the advantages of the technology is all of the future proofing. Right now, most marinas have tried to make their shore power smart. They have to buy current clamps, they have to install them, they have to buy other hardware, they buy various smart devices and have to connect them all up. Ours is very unique and different in that not only is it prongless and has the advantages of safety, but we also deliver everything in one package. That this product takes the advantage and economies of scale by combining everything to deliver shore power that is safe, that has ground fault protection built in, so you don't have to spend $400 on a ground fault protected circuit breaker versus the normal circuit breaker that marinas are used to, which is a 30 amp, 125 circuit breaker without it, which is only about $5 or $10 versus the 400. And also you have power metering to ANSI C12 standards, which are accurate to plus or minus 0.5%, which is called revenue grade, and you can bill for that. And then we combine the software and the hardware as a platform technology. And that platform technology ultimately is plug and play. You're able to take pedestal, plug it in, it all connects up either through Wi-Fi, LTE, whichever marina desires that can do that. And then we do an additional thing, which is focusing on peak demand shaving, also using embedded AI and acting as ultimately the whole marina. If you have, say, 400 slips with our shore power systems, it can load cycle the various slips as it starts to see a peak happening. And it will only load cycle for people that have opted in. Obviously, people that are liveaboards, they would not opt in. However, they would have significant savings and GHG reduction when that happens. Okay. So what our technology really unlocks is rich data that is also controllable. So you do have other power metering devices out there. Typically, they have a 1-year warranty at a marina. And then you have a CRM, third-party software, fantastic software out there. But you have a whole bunch of these pieces that you have to then buy, install, and then have it talk to each other. And every time you get an upgrade on a software update, that risks breaking those communication APIs, which can be frustrating. So we combined everything all in one into a natively integrated platform of our hardware and software. When you look at this slide, really what comes with it, the two key things that our technology truly is for the marine space is that white box you see on the pedestal. Those two boxes are the brain, shore power with the prongless, with the smarts, all embedded as one. It's just plug and play. The pedestal is simply a ubiquitous product that comes in many shapes, forms, sizes, and ultimately is anodized aluminum. We've done 316 marine grade steel also. So the form factor can be whatever any marina's desire ultimately. So it takes that place. Now, the adapters all come with the system. We give extra adapters, and we do have, selling overmolded cords where you don't have an adapter. That also will be available so that people can connect and deliver power that way. We also deal with the challenges and effects of prong plugs connecting and overheating and causing a fire. That is a real issue. And even with our adapter, obviously we're letting people keep the prong side. We've integrated two key things, and this was part of the 15 different marina pilots we had throughout North America last year in 2025. Essentially, these marinas, these ports and whatnot allowed us to put these beta products in, and they gave us feedback on the software and also on the hardware, so that now, based on all that feedback of their complaints, their likes, their wish list, we narrowed it down and now have integrated all that in this final design. And in that final design, you have things like temperature sensing at the contacts for safety, so that as a marina operator in the marina management system, you would be able to not only visualize and see every slip, their voltage, amperage, power usage, even billing integration. You're also able to see the temperature at every single connection point in your marina, real time. And you're able to set an actual the entire marina system set at a temperature that you prefer the connection never to go above. For example, 100 Celsius. And automatically what will happen is it will turn off. It will provide the boater, which gets a free app they can download and utilize to control power and see their bill and pay their bill, but also the marina operator manager, so that they can see that temperature and know what happened. And all they have to do is disconnect, reconnect, and it'll work again. But you're able to tell the operator is able to tell their slip renter that your contacts, your prong plug needs to be replaced. The rust, the impedance is terrible. It needs a replacement. It's not safe any longer. So these are some of the things we deliver. And also for the bad boys and bad girls that own boats and have ever plugged into a neighbor's pedestal because they have to pay for power, RFID was put into the ends of our plugs because it's already smart, and that allows these individual connectors to be permanently assigned for that slip owner, so that if that slip owner travels anywhere in the marina or connects to any other pedestal, they will get power, but it will be billed to them. So lots of cool stuff you can do with load side management. Ultimately, peak shaving is going to be a key thing. There's an additional thing that everyone should take note of, and this is future looking. However, BC Hydro offers energy storage incentives, and those incentives can be for things like your marina and ultimately creating your own microgrid, whereby you can have large battery, high density power that is put at the land side of your marina and be able to charge these large batteries. Think of it as a slightly larger than Tesla sized car battery. And it can transform power during peak loads. So you can essentially take power in the wee hours of the morning when power is cheap from the utility, and then be able to redirect power during peak load times during the day and transform that DC power into AC into your grid, and be able to save a lot of money and also drive, ultimately the GHG reduction by not having to have generated power that uses coal and whatnot, which is that kind of power that feeds peak demand typically. So what our ultimate angle and focus is allowing the legacy marinas and legacy pedestals that are trailing when it comes to modernization to support those activities and not do it where the capital expenditure is too much, because that's a key thing. Nobody wants to put in an electric charger and a shore power pedestal. It just doesn't make sense. So that's what we've done in mind. We've combined a lot of this along with our prongless technology and its advancements in safety to deliver pedestals that are affordable to any marina. So we're very competitive on the cost because we ultimately want to deliver something that marinas can afford, that ultimately deliver a bottom line, a triple bottom line, where they're impacting positively the environment. They have social impact and economic impact that was previously unreachable, and they're able to ultimately upscale and modernize their marina. Looking at some of the past 15 different overall demos that we had done in pilots, it's very interesting to see the user feedback when it comes to connecting a prongless connector. It's almost like a childlike giddiness that we've noticed, where connecting and disconnecting how we do normally with the locking type plug and even locking rings, is not an enjoyable process. So we've been fortunate to land the technology, win a bunch of awards, which ultimately only matter for driving awareness of our technology. And this fall, we are beginning to start fulfilling our commercial purchase orders because our overall pilot is ultimately, the beta pilot is complete. And we are offering 6 shore power commercial pedestals as a commercial pilot, and we'll be announcing that by the end of this week. So obviously, when it comes to decarbonization, there's a lot of stuff we can do. We can do more with less. We can utilize energy storage, and we can deliver infrastructure that really promotes adoption of electrification type assets like an electric vessel. So these are some of the many things that can be done and ultimately drive impact for the environment, for decarbonizing. And there's so many other awesome solutions that are out there. I love a lot of the various alternative fuels. They obviously will have a huge impact and already are in the larger electric vessels. So some very exciting stuff happening at our ports. I'm going to just flow through this real quick, guys, because I just want to hear questions, feedback, because we have a unique, one thing we have been exposed to is being able to go to many different marinas throughout different states and provinces and get feedback from these stakeholders based on shore power, the challenges they're having with code that's been mandated, the challenges that they're having with their individual slip renters, and whatnot. So this is kind of the more interesting thing, and I want to make sure that I'm able to answer some of these questions for you guys. This is our Royal Vancouver Yacht Club. They were our first beta testers, and then they didn't want to wait after trying our beta, which is what you see here in the picture in the back. Those were the 15 different pilot testing betas that we did throughout North America at 15 different marinas. But RVYC, they convinced us to do a full-scale beta at their Wigwam location, which is off-grid, which has been great. It's ultimately delivered a lot of great feedback for us. And they were the only one that we permitted to do that because we wanted to get what we call the 3.0 or commercial product quickly into the hands of them. They've also placed an order, a PO already for Jericho location. There's approximately 350 slips there. And once we complete safety certification by the end of the summer, the first production runs will start seeing the installations of these final commercial product throughout Jericho also. So I mentioned this previously. We're also doing, these are just the very simple plug and play old pilots that we were doing, and pretty exciting stuff. We're also going to be working on their police boats upcoming here, and discussions with various other marina groups that are looking to ultimately hit the bottom line, operational expenditures, and take advantage of that while not being hit too hard with a capital expenditure to get an entirely smart pedestal. So here's some of the areas. Happy to follow up with anyone that would like to, get more information or just questions about anything really. Pretty excited about some of this stuff coming to market. Obviously, a lot of the boats that are coming to market, there's a lot of electric propulsion. But what's happening, we've noticed, is that for electric propulsion, the boats are very, very expensive, so they need help there. There's a lot of entrants in the game for electric propulsion. We go to Metstrade, we go to the International Boating Exhibition in Florida. So we see a lot of this over the last few years and what's been happening. We've even seen larger corporates that had started on electric propulsion, like Yamaha and whatnot, end up pulling out because there's too many entrants, and it's ultimately likely a better solution for them to simply see who wins in electric propulsion, or once it shakes down a bit and adoption happens more, and then come in and just buy out one of these great boat companies. So ultimately, grid to vessel, anti-islanding is a requirement for electric vessels. There's some complexity there. I've done some speaking engagements with the PCC on this. I'm happy to engage and discuss the challenges associated and also the benefits. And ultimately, our system here, you can see, is a marina operator dashboard that you not only can see and visualize the consumption, the voltage, the amperage, the leakage, but you're also able to turn off power manually, have settings that you can do so you can manage and operate it yourself. The operator, the slip renter, they can see and visualize and control power to their boat. So if they happen to get some groceries on Wednesday, drop it off at the marina in their boat in the fridge, and then go back to work until Friday night and come back to go out for the weekend, from Wednesday to Friday, their app will show them if they ever lose power or someone has disconnected power, because that obviously could have an impact on the quality and freshness of their food in the fridge. So we've got a lot of fun things going on here that we're pretty excited about, and really the user experience is such a critical thing. The challenges with leakage, this is, quite frankly, almost every single marina, whether they realize it or not, or the ones that have upgraded, have truly realized how systemic, current leakage problems are from boats. One thing, the reason we actually created the app is we are able to show the boater in real time and reduce that kind of stakeholder friction between boater and marina operators. And that friction can be reduced because it'll show them real-time leakage. And we actually even have steps whereby they can actually troubleshoot the leakage themselves to a degree, whereby they can have it live, look at it, turn off their ELCI breakers on their boat, turn on the first one. Did that leakage come back? No. Turn on the second breaker. Oh, there's the leakage. Check what has been actually connected to that breaker. And it could be a device that's old that is causing some of the current leakage going into the water. And then at the point of identifying that or not, if you don't, you likely have a serious ground fault issue, wiring issue. And that is so typical that we see because so many boaters are also do-it-yourselfers. So that can be a serious issue. And then at that point, if they have that issue, that's when you bring in the marine electrician and no more messing around. So, all right. Love to get some questions, discussion around, quite frankly, anything. Doesn't have to be about our technology. Would love to hear thoughts and I'm happy to share what we have learned along the way.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Check the chat.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Trevor. Welcome back.
Thank you. I got to talk to you actually after for a bit. I'll email you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I have a question. I'm just so impressed with all the progress that you've made over the years. I'm curious to what your thoughts are in moving up the value chain and getting into supporting anchorages, supporting shore power and things like that. What's your overall strategy in terms of your company growth and product evolution?
Yeah, so this is deep tech. It obviously took a while to innovate on and bring to market, get through safety certification. So we had to pick, kind of a key target. And shore power, about 70 to 75% of shore power at a marina is 30 amp, 125 volts. You're seeing the power start to increase. And this is North America I'm talking about. So our technology, as I mentioned before, can scale to any voltage or amperage. So that is not a serious problem. We've proven the technology. And essentially, it's an electrical fingerprint, if people haven't figured out, where we authenticate power at every connector like that. So you've got hot neutral ground and a magnet in the center, and then does a fun thing where when it connects, you can just, I can pull the whole thing, the whole pedestal, and it doesn't disconnect. But with two fingers, I can grab it and just twist, and it repels itself once you get to 20 degrees. So that's a user experience. But ultimately, as we scale up, 20 to 25% of marina shore power is what would be considered level 2 for electric vessels. You're working with 208 or 230 or 240 and able to deliver 50 amps typically is the most common. We're seeing so many boats with the power density of the number of items that they have on that boat that uses electricity. I don't know why a boat has to have 3 ice makers, but man, if you can imagine it, they have it. So we are moving up to that. The level 2 charger, that higher power connector, fits the exact same footprint as this does. Think of the pedestal and everything as something that is, additional. It's a commodity. Really what we're talking about here with our system is this. And the next connector, the higher power, is also the same form factor with a slightly different face. From there, we go to 3-phase power, and we're talking in marinas typically 2 to 5%, typically 3. And we've also scoped out, closer to substation power, real big stuff. But for us, the reason we haven't gone into the big stuff yet is simply, unfortunately, how most startups have to play this game, is prove your first market, stay focused on that first, prove the technology, scale it there, and then you'll see, like VC capital coming in. Canada has always had a love for software as a service, as from an investor standpoint, because it's more quantifiable. Whereas hardware, something like a moonshot idea, like a prongless connector that's going to have this weird touchable, whether it's a home one like this, or something else, it seems daunting, and it seems like, well, how are you going to get adoption? And these are all questions we asked ourselves. But investment in Canada is a little more skittish for larger products that have long lead times, long cycle to develop. But on the shore power side, the real big power, these are things that we've scoped out and we can do. It's a matter of time and money, but it's the resource, because we're able to think of it as any prong plug in the world: residential, commercial, industrial. Obviously, each one has various value propositions and needs. We can create a prongless connector to deliver power that is way safer. It's smart by default, so it can do anything a smart plug can and more. Even do load factor detection, and also very economical. One interesting stat at a Association of Marina Industries trade show was that a large marina had done this test to see how much power could be reduced, how much waste is happening at their marina. And about 50% of the market marinas will do flat rate billing. The other 50% will do metered power, and so on and so forth. So this one marina was flat billing. They put in a fake, like a BC Hydro analog meter. They put in fake meter shells everywhere on the actual marina, just to see what the user habits would happen and what it would do impacting their overall electricity bill, because they have no idea where all that electricity is going to, right? It's just flat rate. And what they found was over 30% reduction in energy use over the next 12 months. So once people, you manage it, you measure it, and people will, do something about it themselves. And they will not leave their heaters on nonstop inside their boat and whatnot. So there is a lot of impact there. And then on peak demand, really, the fact that people can opt in, and this would only load cycle, boats power during peak time of day for 10 or 15 minutes, because we need to make sure those batteries in the boat, even the lead acid, is charged so that the bilge pumps are running, because a lot of boats love to leak.
Yeah.
Trevor, there's a couple of questions on the chat. Just of way.
Have a look. Okay, cool. So Darren. Yeah. So I'm guessing, Darren, that you've, I was really shocked, pun intended, I guess, that BC Hydro announced that they would not be supporting any of all the various liquid cooling, all the I guess AI driven energy needs in BC. They would not supply power. And obviously BC Hydro has a limited resource, and we're seeing times of drought where we're not getting enough water. So the grid, there's a lot of opportunity for the grid overall, and even creating your own microgrid with electric vessels coming to your marina. They can also help support that. However, they have to abide by what's called anti-islanding, meaning their battery needs to know if there's a power outage or the circuit is open back into the grid, and someone's a BC Hydro person's working on a power line. That's a dangerous situation. So not all of the electric vessels have that, and not actually all the electric vehicles have that. Sorry, I'm just going to read your question so I answer it properly. Yeah, so this is a scary spot. What we're seeing is, first of all, I'm mentioning that there's electric vessels. Marinas, in theory, all want to support them. But what they're finding is once they start supporting them, they don't make any more money to help repay. Sure, you can just say, hey, we're just going to do a higher flat rate, and that's fine. And that partially works, but it certainly doesn't democratize power usage. They would need in the management of their overall marina. Most of these marinas are already way underpowered already, even just for the advancements in the newer boats and how much power they require to run all their devices now. Because 1980s and 90s even, there was you barely used any electricity for shore power for a 35 or 45-foot boat. My uncle just finished retiring from BC Hydro, and he has over the years been a wealth of knowledge. You have to pay a rather large sum of money for delivering this power and transform it. Upgrading, your primary and secondary power at the road to your marina. This is not cheap. When I mentioned energy storage, ESI, Energy Storage Initiative, that is BC Hydro doing that, and you can actually get up to 90% of any, essentially buying energy storage like a battery for your marina, large battery, and then, feeding your own grid during peak times just from the battery and recharging the huge battery overnight. That is something that they're doing. That's something that we're keenly interested in, and are looking to do a flagship place. That program is directly with the marina. However, someone like ourselves, essentially, we would mesh it all up so that you have your smart connectors everywhere. And really, what our shore power devices are data collection devices that deliver your data at your marina in real time and transform it and visualize it so that you can make things way safer, and more economical operationally. There's way too much stuff that happens and is a waste of operators' time with respect to electrical and having issues at the marina. So hopefully, BC, it's a big question mark. The capacity to provide power. That's why they're offering, energy storage initiatives and stuff, because they recognize that they're having to get power from dirty sources like Alberta. Nothing that that's a bad thing, but our peak demand is almost always driven by power plants that can turn on to handle that peak demand and generate more electricity instantaneously by throwing more coal, versus, all right, we're going to turn that nuclear reactor up, or BC Hydro, for example. Okay, so safety certified. That is a nuanced question. So to answer, are we safety certified in Canada previously for our technology, and the US? Yes. We have CSA and UL safety certification for what inspired the tech. It was an earlier version of our technology, and it still is prongless, but the patents that we owned were around turning on when it gets close. So it's proximity. It doesn't authenticate power before, have to touch first, and be that device that authenticates power every time. Instead, you're authenticating power, making sure it's safe for everyone. Whereas this was our first inspiring, very Canadian problem. It was for engine block heaters, and you would connect. It's a magnetic connect and disconnect. It was a fringe IoT device, meaning when you park your vehicle in your driveway in the prairies, it's usually not close enough to your Wi-Fi in your house. So you would have to manually do it with your phone, and the user experience wasn't so great because of that. But we did sell 10,000 to various places like Princess Auto, Canadian Tire, and whatnot. So we sold that and then started upgrading our technology to our sensing technology that authenticates power. So yes, and this one right now, this is essentially our system. The pedestal is what comes with it, like any pedestal. And then this product is in certification right now, and we're getting certification for a few things. We're getting it for the connector and the adapter. We're getting it for the whole box. And inside the box, it will be ground fault protected, certified. So you will not have to, buy a $400 breaker for your marina. And right now, the marinas in Canada, they have these $400 breakers. The US has to have those at every slip. For a 30 amp, they have to have it. For 50 amp, they have to have it. And the 30 amp is about $300 or $400 US. And it trips. If the boat has more than 30 milliamps of leakage, it will trip the breaker, which means, for Canada, they do the same thing, and they allow marinas to do it at the sub panel, so on a whole chain on the whole dock. But the reason they're going to be changing that to each slip is also because you put it on the sub panel and it's completely unusable, because each boat, each slip, in a lot of states, I'd find that more than 50% of boats at one slip would trip 30 milliamps. So you've got this systemic problem of boats and older boats that have current leakage happening at a level that is already past what NEC just instituted. So this is critical and key. Yeah. We're going to send out a more expansive deck. If electrification is exciting to you and plugs are exciting to you, which apparently is my life, then we can provide a lot more information. Because regardless of what VoltSafe is doing, with our novelty and whatnot, we really want to, move the mandate forward of supporting the marine industry as a whole and the stakeholders in it. And our vision is to deliver, shore power and drive not only the adoption, but improve the economic value. So, as we expand, we have a modernized grid, and that also deliver, a much better user interface that is a whole lot safer. And social impact. I mean, a lot of people don't realize until they get there, but when you're 65, 70 years old, bending over to plug in stuff doesn't come so easy anymore. So, the user interface is pretty simple to connect to, and it just works. It doesn't even need the software to work. You can actually just use our connectors and they just automatically work.
Well, thanks, Trevor. That's really interesting, and congratulations on all of your progress.
Thanks so much. Yeah, and congratulations on VMCC's progress. We kind of at the beginning, we were there, and it's fantastic. All the hard work everyone's doing to make the industry so much better. It's great to see.
Yeah. Wilma?
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We will be uploading Trevor's presentation. I believe you also have a deeper dive, more technical deck to share as well. So we'll put that up as well, and as well as the video. Thank you all for attending again. We look forward to seeing you next month at 3GA Marine, and maybe even an August event. But that's to be confirmed. And of course, we want to see all of you at Greenship, Trevor, and hopefully you and your team. And